Hey everyone, welcome to today's product demo. I'm Katherine Holt, Marketing Manager at Fullcast IO, and today I'm with Alex Newman, who's Fullcast Sales Engineer and our Sales Ops Expert. And today we'll be looking at our product, specifically at how it relates to how account hierarchy challenges. So I'll let Alex walk us through the flow of today's webinar. But before I pass it over to Alex, I'll let you know you can ask questions at any time with the Q&A or chat features. Either one works. And this is only a half-hour demo, so if we have any more questions at the end, we'll just answer those offline. And finally, we'll be sending out a recording of this webinar, so if you'd like to share it with any of your team members or want to watch anything back, you'll have that in your inbox tomorrow morning. So hey, Alex, I'll pass it over to you and we can jump in.
All right, thanks, Katherine, and here we go. So we're going to focus on account family maintenance today. But wanted to flash up a few of our other pre-built capabilities that come along with our Motion module. So we have 4 different categories, and in today's session, we'll be focusing in on data integrity policies. Wanted to show these to get people started thinking of which one they'd love to see next. Each of these, what we call policies, are pre-built that we're able to deploy directly to Salesforce to serve a specific function. And they're built with a combination of Apex code, validation rules, so on and so forth. So we have a managed package, which we can deploy into a CRM to accomplish these various tasks. So with that being said, let's jump into what we're going to go over today. So for account hierarchies, we're going to review at a base. What are they? Why are they important? What are the challenges that come with trying to solve an account hierarchy related problem? And then what are the best practices that we considered before going in and actually building out a solution? And then lastly, we'll show a few examples of what this looks like as an end result, both within a sandbox environment, Salesforce, and then also our Fullcast app itself, since this is important actually when going through the planning process. So I'm excited to get into this, and here we go. This should look very familiar, and I just wanted to do this to set the stage at really the most simple level possible. So when we're thinking about account hierarchies and how they work, these images, we can follow them steps 1 through 3. So for step 1, we go in and create that account, either being the ultimate parent or the parent account. In this instance, it's going to be Acme. In step 2, we're then creating net new accounts, and we'll say that those are then our child accounts. And we can see in the image here that the account name is Brown Company and the parent account is that Acme account. And then, of course, in step 3, we have that breakdown of that view hierarchy. And we can see Acme as that ultimate parent account, Brown Co. as our parent, and then the Crown Company as our child account down there. And maintaining the relationship between these various business entities within your CRM and understanding your customer's corporate structure is extremely useful in a number of sales scenarios. And there are a number of use cases where we could go in and really use that information to help inform where we should focus our efforts in terms of going to market. And we'll get into a few of those examples on the next slide. But as we know, the native Salesforce functionality for dealing with hierarchy relationships is very simple. You just have your parent account and your child account, and there's not a lot of room for flexibility for when let's say a merger takes place. There's not a lot of room for flexibility when a rep wants to create a specific hierarchy structure for how your organization sells into different corporations. So what makes these so important? And I think these 4 do a good job telling that story, but by no means are these examples exhaustive. I think each one of us on the phone can kind of think of different ones that are especially important to their organization, depending on how you go to market. But the relationship between a company's various entities is really crucial to maintain an accurate 360-degree view of your account base. And within the CRM, we need to be able to run these types of roll-up reports that help us understand exactly how subsidiaries roll up to a parent account. If you're going off of departments for an individual company, and that's how you're building out your hierarchy structure, we want to ensure that you can build that out according to the way that you're selling. And just to run through these 4 examples, since I think, again, they do a really good job painting the picture of why this is so important. So the first one is understanding the decision-making structure. And so an example here is to help us answer, are decisions for the product that you're selling being made at a branch level, or are they made at a company's headquarters? And again, as we go through each of these different examples, what we'll find in common is it's helping us understand how we want to sell into a given company. And if we take a small step back just before continuing through some of these examples, think about how your CRM houses parent-child relationships today, and if indeed it's relevant, right? Since there are some instances where companies are not selling into, let's say, if you're not selling into enterprise businesses, and you're only selling into SMB, then you might want to think about this from a different standpoint. So it's always good to first clarify exactly why account hierarchies are important to you. So hoping to run through a few of these examples and either remind a few of you why this could be really useful for your organization, or perhaps bring up some net new idea that you have not thought of before in how you guys can sell against those divisions and headquarters and such. So the second example is having to do with visibility and really being able to identify cross-sell and upsell opportunities. So here, we'd want to be able to leverage an already existing relationship with, say, a customer that if we're selling into a related division, department, or subsidiary. And as we all know, it's much easier to start a relationship from a point of familiarity. So if you're already a provider to someone that is involved in their corporate hierarchy, then getting a recommendation in can be a much more smooth way to begin a discussion. You can hopefully bypass a lot of different kind of early on measures that salespeople face. And getting that insight really quickly into how we can and where we should do cross-sell, where there are upsell opportunities, can be really important for your sales team. Then third we have is just a full list of that full corporate hierarchy. And in the demo, we'll actually show what that looks like in terms of getting a quick status check on how well we're penetrating into a given set of accounts. And it can really be helpful when looking to understand or actually really implement an ABM strategy or account-based selling strategy. So for instance, if you want to sell into a given account and ensure that that same sales rep is selling into all the associated child accounts, these are things that can be really important in the sales process. And again, all to make sure that we're giving our customer the best experience possible. And then the last example I have here is tracking mergers and acquisitions. And have 2 here examples for how this can be important. So first is, what would the impact be of an existing sales engagement if, say, a company that you're selling to is acquired by another company that you're actually already sold to? Do we need new contracts? And it actually blends nicely into our second example, which is if a given company is acquired, then you can get in front of it to actually go and perhaps negotiate corporate pricing. So as you can imagine, if you didn't have that information at your fingertips and it was sprung upon a salesperson last minute, whatever it might be, there can be complications in how best to execute a contract. In this scenario, we want to enable people to have that visibility early on so that they can understand, hey, do we need to be more proactive with our customer base and say, take a look at any mergers or acquisitions that might have occurred. So what I want to get into next is what the issues of actually implementing a solution for account hierarchies entails. So here, so not all, starting at the top here, we know that not all accounts in a corporate family are going to be in your CRM. So for example, if you're looking to have that full set of visibility into a corporate structure, you may just not have all those accounts, and you also may not want to add them. So that's a consideration. The second is you might have multiple sources of truth. So it might be very subjective. You have a rep saying, hey, there is an account that it rolls up to this parent account. I read it in an article that just came out and these companies have merged. And then you also might rely on, say, a third-party data source to influence those recommendations for account structures. So having multiple sources of truth can always create complication. Third one here is oftentimes hierarchy relationships from those third-party data sources or what you might find online are strictly based on legal entities instead of how you sell. So you want to have a model that complements the way that you are selling your product, wherever it might be. And then holding companies are often included at the top of a hierarchy, and you may not want them in your system. And in fact, if they are in your system, you might want to be able to do something about it so that, say, if one of your strategic reps owns, and your policy is that your rep that owns the parent account should own the associated children. If someone, say, owns Berkshire, should they own all of those companies that fall below, even though Berkshire may not be involved in any of the buying decision. So those are some things that we can get ahead of. And then, of course, parent accounts are not linked because the immediate parent is not in the CRM. So again, this refers kind of to the gap in information that one might deal with. So here are a few of the considerations and really limitations of having to build out an account hierarchy policy within your CRM. So here are a lot of quick examples. I won't go through each one in detail, but you can start to see if you're not addressing each of these different scenarios, then your solution can fall short. So everything from dealing with multinational accounts. So if a sales rep is from a different country or sells into or region sell into the same hierarchy, it's important to ensure your sales team has a view of that whole hierarchy so that two different reps can kind of work together and not work on the same child accounts, let's say. What happens when discovered subsidiaries come forward, right? New accounts are added to your CRM. How do we place them into that account hierarchy view and ensure that we're all aware? So again, these can present a lot of challenges. And at my last company, in fact, we sold to folks in really anyone that had an hourly employee. And what we came across time and time again was how challenging it was just understanding the franchise model and who had influence and who didn't. So again, these all need to be factored in ahead of time, and Salesforce's native functionality, unfortunately, doesn't go far enough to actually solve all these problems. So I just wanted to put forward these three best practices that we kept in mind while building out this solution that we're going to review in just a moment for account hierarchies. So with all the policies that we build out, there are a lot of considerations that need to go into the decision-making process. And these are really our core three that help influence us when we're thinking through all of the different what-if scenarios and actually building out exactly what our solution is for dealing with account hierarchies. So the first one is to always build a rule that is optimizing for the customer experience and not the sales rep experience. And we want to keep your customer and their interactions with your company first and foremost while creating these scenarios. So, we understand that moving salespeople around in the middle of a sales cycle can impact customer satisfaction and experience. So having a really clear policy around what if subsidiaries are added to your CRM, are they owned by the parent owner or are they treated as their own independent accounts? Just as an example there. Number two is to encourage a team mentality among conflicting sales reps and other various teams. So when a problem does arise, which inevitably it will, have a policy for actually coming to a fair solution. Rather than dictating a solution for every possible scenario, which is near impossible, we want to enable people to build out the framework for what happens when they reach a scenario that hasn't been factored in. And then rule number three, we always want to consider is clearly defining these policies and communicating them to your team. So if all child accounts should be owned by the same parent account owner, make sure that happens. And this can be said from anything from keeping territories, quota, and compensation plans stable. It's really all in effort to not disrupt your team's morale. We know that there's a huge loss of productivity when people feel as though they don't have as much agency when it comes to understanding their own policies and actually giving input since they are on the ground. So, really being able to clearly state what your policies are ahead of time and what happens when an issue comes forward can go a long way. So with that being said, here's a summary of kind of Account Hierarchies 101 in terms of how we deal with the problem. So firstly, we've built really the framework for mapping together accounts within an account hierarchy. However, what we rely on is the third-party data that your company is already using. So some really popular examples of third-party data sets that we use to help build out the automatic maintenance of account hierarchies are Dun & Bradstreet. Inside Sales is another one. These various data providers house their own interpretations of account hierarchy structures. So we take that information and we're actually able to, what we've done is built out rules that can help link accounts that are added to your CRM, what happens when an account is deleted, what happens when an account is inserted in the middle of a hierarchy, and then lastly, we have the ability to use a custom number of fields on an account so that reps, they themselves can actually flag for when an account hierarchy should be adjusted. So it can be really useful. And those 4 scenarios are supported with our software, can really make the process of building out that account hierarchy family much more seamless. And we use the standard parent ID field to do the linking and then stamp that ultimate parent on the account for easier reporting. And this is just really important to mention since, obviously it's really important for rep visibility, which we're going to review in just a second to see where different accounts are within a account hierarchy structure and how well you're selling into them and what the latest activity was. But it's also really important for operations team when comes time for your fiscal year planning, your quarterly year planning, when you're moving around accounts, to really quickly understand what happens when you move a parent account from one territory to another. Do your child accounts follow or do they not? So we'll review that scenario as well. So I'm going to stop share for just a moment and then bring up the actual instance of how we can view what we've built out. All right, there we go. All right. Perfect. All right. Katherine, are you able to see my screen?
Yep, looks good, Alex.
Perfect. So we're in our sandbox Salesforce environment, and I just wanted to show what it looks like once these account hierarchies have been built out. So an easy example to go into is Dell. So I'll click in here, and we are able to create these account hierarchies going through these consecutive rule sets. So we can start by trying to match off of, say, a parent DUNS number that might link an account to another. then if we find no match there, we can go on to a secondary key used for matching. So for example, what is the website domain field, and try matching that way, and so on and so forth. And the really neat thing about our solution is that we're able to use these various checkboxes and such to actually influence how these account hierarchies or families are built out. So if we're unable to get a match on our primary key field, we move on to our secondary, and then if we're unable to get a match on our secondary key, we move on to our tertiary child and parent keys. So it can be really useful. And I just wanted to bring up a quick example of what it looks like once these account hierarchies are fully fleshed out. So we can see that we've customized this page a bit, but this is really giving instant access into your sales, for your sales rep, to get quick visibility as to when the last activity was. So for our activity health here, if they have an activity within the last 10 days, it'll be green. If they don't, it'll be red. We can also see any associated open opportunities that are important. So this is saying we have an open opportunity of 45,000 here. So we need, but there's been no activity. And of course, then we can also see the account owner. So perhaps if we wanted to collaborate with another owner, whatever it might be, we can ensure that we can very quickly and easily go in and do that. And happy to just quick mention that we traditionally, when we go over these demos individually with folks, we can show more of the logic behind these formula fields we're using, exactly how we're interacting with third-party data sources, and how we've really gone about creating that framework. We have a POC process as well, where you can go through to actually demonstrate this using your own either real data or dummy data. Now what I'm jumping into here is, as I mentioned in the beginning, you want to be able to factor in this information while going through the planning process. So this is a method to do that. Just reload this page. And this is the Fullcast platform. And here what we're able to do, oops, last pass. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. That should do it. Perfect. So this is our platform. It's actually connected to that Salesforce sandbox we saw. And what I wanted to bring up is what this actually looks like visually while going through the planning process, and how it's relevant in two separate ways. So what we're about to see is our design module for putting together your segmentation and territory plan. And I want to show two examples for how you can view account hierarchy in our system. So this is taking in all of the account object information and putting it into our planning platform. So again, let's search for Dell here. We can run any different type of query we'd like, and then filter it. This bottom section functions just like Excel. And perfect, we can see Dell Technologies here. What we can do is actually understand the, if we wanted to say show parents only, we could do that. And then I'll say show all accounts, and then actually put Dell so that we can see how it's grouped together here. So just a quick example there. And then the second way we're able to factor in those account hierarchy relationships is I'll click into an individual territory. And what we can do, I'll ungroup here, is if we're, say, moving around a few accounts from this number 10 territory in the East Enterprise North America pod, it will actually prompt us when we go to move accounts and ask us exactly how we want to deal with it. So let's say I wanted to move them from 10 to 11. Press confirm, and here we're asked how we want to deal with the treatment of these account families. So again, this is all related to the way that your team is selling into these corporate structures. So the first option is to treat them independently. So essentially don't reassign child accounts to where parent accounts are moving. The second option is if a parent account moves, move all of the associated children account. And then the third option, which is pretty neat, is the ability to actually create a custom logic around this. So let's say if the vertical equals healthcare, then move any associated child accounts to where the parent accounts move. So just a quick example of how that looks. And we're running up on time. I want to leave Katherine some extra time to go over what the following webinars are, but hope everyone has found this helpful, and absolutely would love to go in and discuss how account hierarchies are relevant for your organization. I'll bring up our closing slide right now.
Thanks, Alex. So like I said, if there's any other questions that come in, Alex and I can cover those offline. And again, if you'd like to see this in more detail or you have more questions about our product, feel free to reach out to myself or Alex. So kind of in tandem with this product demo, we wanted to have a larger conversation around account hierarchy. So next week on August 22nd, next Thursday, we're going to be doing a panel discussion on account hierarchies. And we'll be featuring some sales ops leaders who are our customers, and also some other leaders in the software space. I'll have a list of all those companies when I send out the invitation next week. So if you're interested in kind of joining a larger discussion around account hierarchy, kind of outside of our product, we'd love to have you join online, and we're planning on making that really interactive, having some pretty active chat, and also bringing people in to speak live. So I'll send a link to register for that, and if you have questions on it, feel free to let me know. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. We had great attendance today. It's exciting to see everyone interested in talking about these issues in sales ops. So I hope this was helpful, and huge thank you to Alex. And I'm sure Alex and I will see you guys online again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.